The agonized screams of the tortured human girl echoed through the halls of the Adosian lab, her blood splattered on the sterile white floors, and the galaxy would bleed for her suffering. When Commander Nolan Sullivan received the distress call from the remote colony, the desperate message chilled him to the bone. The Adosians, ruthless alien dominators of their galactic empire, had been brutally experimenting on an innocent young human girl in their secret research facility. The Adosians claimed she was a dangerous criminal. Sullivan knew those imperialist bastards were full of shit. This atrocity violated the fragile peace treaty between the Human Alliance and Adosian Empire. But the Adosians were probing for weakness, hungry to subjugate humanity under their rule. Sullivan needed proof of Adosian war crimes and to rescue the girl before the enemy realized their mistake. He quickly assembled a crack team, his right-hand man, a grizzled veteran of many battles, a master of infiltration who could sneak into any stronghold, and a brilliant xenobiologist to analyze what horrors had been inflicted on the girl. Their stealth ship silently touched down on the barren planetoid, the secret lab looming before them. Sullivan gripped his plasma rifle, jaw tight. The stakes were immense. If they failed here, the Adosian Emperor would launch a full-scale invasion of human space. All of humanity could fall. But as Sullivan and his men entered the foreboding complex, he uncovered a truth that shook him to his core. The tortured girl was just the first pawn in a diabolical Adosian plot to genetically break and subjugate the human race. Sullivan had to win here, had to save the girl and expose the Adosians' plan. There was no room for failure. The fate of humanity itself hung by a thread. As alarms started blaring and enemy forces mobilized, Sullivan knew the next few hours would decide the future of the galaxy. There would be no mercy and no surrender. His team would rescue the girl, stop the Adosian plot, and show those alien monsters the fury of the human spirit. This meant war. And the Adosians had no idea what they had just started. Sullivan and his team move with practiced precision, their footsteps barely audible as they breach the perimeter of the secret Adosian lab complex. The outer guards fall silently, their bodies crumpling to the ground as the team advances. Guided by intel from their embedded human double agent, they navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the facility. "Reeves, you're with me," Sullivan whispers, his voice low and urgent. "We're heading for the holding cells. Graves, find a terminal and get that data. We'll rendezvous at the extraction point." The team splits up, each member focused on their assigned task. Sullivan and Reeves make their way deeper into the complex, their weapons at the ready. As they approach the cell block, they encounter a group of Adosian guards. The two men work in perfect sync, neutralizing the threat with a series of well-placed shots and swift hand-to-hand takedowns. Reeves hacks the lock on the cell door, and they burst inside. The sight that greets them is horrific. The tortured human girl lies strapped to an operating table, her body broken and barely clinging to life. Around her, the room is filled with the remnants of gruesome experiments, a testament to the Adosians' cruelty. Sullivan feels a surge of rage as he carefully scoops the girl into his arms. Reeves covers their exit, his eyes scanning for any signs of movement. Suddenly, alarms blare throughout the complex, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoes in the distance. "Solaris knows we're here," Reeves growls. "We need to move now." Meanwhile, Dr. Graves works frantically at a terminal, his fingers flying over the keys as he downloads a trove of incriminating data. Just as the progress bar reaches 100%, a group of Adosian troops storms into the room, weapons blazing. Graves ducks behind cover, returning fire as he tries to find a way out. Sullivan and Reeves, still carrying the unconscious girl, fight their way through the complex, dispatching Adosian soldiers with ruthless efficiency. They reach Graves's position just as he runs out of ammunition. "I've got the data," Graves shouts over the din of gunfire, "but we're cut off from the extraction point." Sullivan's teeth clenched as he assesses their options. "We'll have to fight our way out. Reeves, take point. Graves, keep that data safe. I've got the girl." Together, the team battles through the remaining opposition, their weapons flashing in the dim light of the complex. They finally emerge outside, the cloaked shuttle waiting just beyond the perimeter. Suddenly, a hail of plasma bolts rains down upon them. An elite Idoshan kill team, led by the notorious Commander Zorgoth, closes in, determined to prevent their escape. Reeves takes a hit, his shoulder sizzling from the impact. Sullivan hands the girl to Graves and charges forward, engaging Zorgoth in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. The two warriors trade blows, their movements a blur of speed and power. Sullivan lands a devastating uppercut, sending Zorgoth staggering back. Seizing the opportunity, Sullivan reaches for his sidearm and fires, the plasma bolt striking Zorgoth square in the chest. With Zorgoth down, Sullivan races back to the shuttle, helping Graves carry Reeves inside. They take off, leaving the smoldering ruins of the complex behind them. In the relative safety of their ship, Dr. Graves works to stabilize the girl's condition, his brow furrowed in concentration. Sullivan establishes a secure link with Alliance Command, his voice steady as he delivers his report. "We have the girl and the data," Sullivan says, his eyes fixed on the screen. "But there's more, sir. The Idotians. They were experimenting on her, trying to create some kind of super soldier to infiltrate and destabilize our worlds." As Sullivan ends the transmission, an urgent message from Alliance intelligence flashes across the screen. Emperor Solaris, enraged by the loss of his prized experiment, has ordered an immediate strike against a lightly defended human colony, home to millions of innocent civilians. Sullivan's heart pounds as he reads the message, the weight of responsibility settling heavily upon his shoulders. He knows he has only hours to act, to rally the Alliance fleet and defend the colony while protecting Kira and exposing the Idoshan's crimes to the galaxy. The fate of countless lives hangs in the balance as Sullivan races against time, the specter of war looming on the horizon. Sullivan's hands shook as he gripped the controls of his battered fighter. The cockpit reeked of burnt circuitry and sweat. He stared through the cracked viewscreen at the debris field that moments ago had been Emperor Solaris's dreadnought. "This is Commander Sullivan. All units report in," he barked into the comms. One by one, the surviving ships of his decimated fleet checked in. Each report stabbed at Sullivan's gut. So many good people lost. "Sir, we're detecting escape pods launching from the Idoshan wreckage," his sensor officer called out. Sullivan nodded grimly. "Round them up. We'll need prisoners for intel and leverage." He steered his fighter back toward the colony, assessing the damage. Fires raged across the planet's surface where Idoshan weapons had struck. The orbital defense platforms hung in tatters. "Reeves, what's your status?" Sullivan demanded. Static crackled, then Reeves's strained voice came through. "We've secured the girl, sir, but these enhanced Idosian troops are giving us hell. Request immediate evac." "Copy that. Hold position. I'm coming in hot." Sullivan dove toward the atmosphere, his damaged fighter groaning in protest. He gritted his teeth as G-forces slammed him back in his seat. The colony's spaceport came into view, a war zone of collapsed buildings and scattered bodies. He spotted Reeves's team pinned down behind a crumbling wall, exchanging fire with a group of Idoshan soldiers. Even from here, Sullivan could see the inhumanly fluid movements of the enhanced troops as they advanced. Sullivan opened fire, his remaining plasma cannons carving swaths through the Idosian ranks. He brought the fighter in low, kicking up a cloud of dust and debris that gave Reeves's team cover to fall back. "Get to the extraction point," Sullivan shouted into the comms. "I'll keep them busy." He yanked the controls, bringing his fighter around for another pass. An Idoshan energy blast clipped his wing, sending him into a wild spin. Sullivan fought the controls, his muscles straining as he pulled out of the dive mere meters above the ground. A shuttle roared overhead, touching down near Reeves's position. Sullivan saw them sprint for the open hatch, half carrying the girl between them. "We're clear," Reeves called out. "Get out of there, Commander." Sullivan glanced at his fuel gauge, nearly empty. With a resigned sigh, he aimed his fighter at the regrouping Idosian soldiers and punched the throttle. At the last second, he yanked the ejection lever. The canopy blew off and Sullivan rocketed into the sky. His fighter slammed into the Idoshan position in a massive fireball. Sullivan's chute deployed and he drifted down toward the waiting shuttle. As Reeves helped him aboard, Sullivan caught his first glimpse of Kira. The girl huddled in a corner, eyes wide with terror. But there was something else there too, a hardness, an otherness that sent a chill down Sullivan's spine. "Sir," Dr. Graves's voice crackled over the comms, "I finished analyzing the data. You need to see this immediately." Sullivan strapped himself in as the shuttle rocketed toward orbit. He knew the battle was nowhere near the end. Whatever the Adosians had done to Kira, and who knows how many others, humanity would need every advantage to survive the coming storm. The acrid stench of burning flesh and charred metal assaulted Sullivan's nostrils as he surveyed the devastation from his command shuttle. Twisted wreckage and bodies littered the colony's streets. Medics in hazmat suits rushed between makeshift triage centers, their grim faces visible through respirator masks. "What's the casualty count?" Sullivan asked, his voice hoarse. Lieutenant Chen shook her head. "Still climbing, sir. We're looking at thousands dead, more dying by the hour. That Edosian bioweapon is unlike anything we've seen." Sullivan's fists clenched as he watched another shuttle touch down, disgorging more hazmat-suited personnel. A crackle of static drew his attention to the comm unit. "Sullivan, it's Reeves. You need to see this." Minutes later, Sullivan stood in a hastily erected quarantine tent, staring at the slight figure of Kira through a transparent barrier. The girl moved with inhuman grace, her movements a blur as she sparred with a combat drone. Metal crumpled under her strikes. Dr. Graves approached, datapad in hand. "It's true, Commander. Kira's genetic structure has been heavily modified. She's stronger, faster, and more resilient than any human should be. The Adosians have created a living weapon." Sullivan's expression resolute. "And there could be more like her out there." He strode to an adjoining tent where a captured Adosian commander sat bound to a chair. Sullivan loomed over the alien, voice low and dangerous. "Talk. How many others are there?" The Adosian's multifaceted eyes gleamed with defiance. "You understand nothing, human. Kira is merely the first fruit of Emperor Solaris's grand vision. For generations, we have been shaping your species, breeding the perfect warriors and spies. They walk among you even now, waiting for the signal to strike." Sullivan opened his mouth to demand more, but an urgent beep from his wrist comm cut him off. "Commander, long-range sensors are picking up multiple hyperspace signatures. It's a full Adosian battle fleet." "Damn it," Sullivan snarled. He keyed his comm. "All units, prepare for immediate evacuation. Get every surviving colonist onto whatever ships can still fly. We're leaving." Chaos erupted as the battered Alliance forces scrambled to comply. Sullivan raced to oversee the loading of refugees onto transport ships, barking orders as he went. Nearby, Reeves and his team escorted Kira aboard Sullivan's command shuttle. As the last transports lifted off, Sullivan took one final look at the burning colony below. His voice was thick with emotion as he issued the jump order. "All ships, prepare for light speed. Random vectors. We'll regroup at the emergency rendezvous point." The stars stretched into lines as Sullivan's ragtag fleet fled into the void. In the sudden quiet of hyperspace, Sullivan slumped in his command chair, the weight of their losses pressing down on him. He thought of the Adosian commander's words, of sleeper agents hidden among humanity's populations. With grim tenacity, Sullivan opened a secure channel to broadcast across all human territories. "This is Commander Nolan Sullivan of the Alliance Defense Force. I bring grave news. The Adosian Empire has betrayed us all." As Sullivan's warning echoed across the stars, Emperor Solaris stood in his fortified bunker, light years away. A hollow screen flickered before him, displaying the fleeing human ships. "My lord," an aide's nervous voice broke the silence. "The Tartarus lab has been destroyed." Solaris waved a dismissive hand. "A necessary sacrifice. Our true weapons are already in place. The humans have no idea what's coming." A cold smile played across the Emperor's features as he watched Sullivan's ships vanish into hyperspace. The endgame had begun. The battered Alliance fleet limped through the void, their engines sputtering and hull plating scorched. In the command center of his flagship, Sullivan hunched over a tactical display, his face gaunt from sleepless nights. "Status report," he barked. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comms. "Sir, we're down to 30% fuel reserves. Life support systems are strained, and medical bay is overflowing with wounded." Sullivan's mind focused. He turned to his navigation officer. "How long until the Adosians catch up?" "At our current speed, they'll be on us in less than 6 hours." A tense silence fell over the bridge. Sullivan's eyes darted across the star chart, searching for any possible escape route. Suddenly, an alarm blared. "Commander," the sensor officer called out, "we're picking up a massive gravitational disturbance dead ahead." Sullivan leaned in, studying the readout. His eyes widened. "It's a wormhole. Stable configuration." "Sir," Chen interjected, "passing through could tear our ships apart." Sullivan's lips tightened into a thin line. "And staying here means certain death." He keyed the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Commander Sullivan. Prepare for emergency wormhole transit. Divert all power to structural integrity fields." The fleet approached the swirling maw of the anomaly. Tendrils of energy lashed out, battering their hulls. Inside Sullivan's ship, the deck plates groaned and bulkheads creaked under the immense strain. "Hull integrity down to 62%, an officer shouted over the din. Sullivan gripped his chair as the ship shuddered violently. "Hold together," he muttered. With a final, wrenching lurch, the fleet burst through the other side of the wormhole. Alarms blared as systems overloaded. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in an eerie red glow. "Damage report," Sullivan demanded. "Multiple hull breaches, sir. We've lost 2 frigates. The rest of the fleet is reporting severe damage, but we're still space-worthy." Sullivan nodded grimly. "Where are we?" The navigation officer frowned at his console. "Unknown, sir. These star patterns don't match any in our database." "Sir," the sensor officer cut in, "I'm detecting a large planetary body nearby. No star, just a rogue planet." Sullivan studied the readings. "Any signs of the Adosians?" "Negative, sir. We appear to be alone." A flicker of hope sparked in Sullivan's chest. "Take us into the planet's shadow. We'll use it for cover while we make repairs." As the fleet maneuvered into position, Sullivan turned to his second-in-command. "Prep a landing party. If there's anything down there that can help us, we need to find it." Hours later, Sullivan led a small team across the planet's barren surface. Dr. Graves trudged beside him, scanner in hand. Reeves took point, his rifle at the ready. "Energy signatures are getting stronger," Graves reported. "Just over this ridge." They crested the hill and stopped short. Before them sprawled a vast complex of alien architecture, its angular forms defying human aesthetics. At its center loomed a colossal structure that stretched beyond the atmosphere. "My God," Graves breathed. "It's some kind of orbital shipyard." Sullivan's mind raced with possibilities. If we can get it operational. A high-pitched whine cut through the air. Metallic shapes rose from the ground, red sensors glowing menacingly. "Automated defenses," Reeves shouted. "Take cover!" Energy bolts sizzled past them as the team dove for shelter. Sullivan returned fire, his plasma rifle leaving scorch marks on the drone's armored shells. "We're outnumbered," Graves yelled over the din. Suddenly, a blur of motion caught Sullivan's eye. Kira stood amid the chaos, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. She raised her hands, and the air itself seemed to ripple around her. With a thunderous crack, invisible forces slammed into the drones. Metal crumpled and circuitry shattered as the machines were crushed by Kira's awesome power. In seconds, it was over. The team stared at Kira in awe and fear. Sullivan approached her cautiously. "Are you all right?" he asked. Kira nodded, her eyes slowly fading back to normal. I didn't know I could do that." Sullivan placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression conflicted. "You may have just saved all our lives." He turned to the others. "Let's see what secrets this place holds." As they made their way deeper into the alien complex, none of them noticed the distant flash of ships emerging from the wormhole behind them.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.